So, how many times have you typed something into ChatGPT, gotten an answer that was technically fine, and then quietly closed the window? Not because the AI was wrong, but because it felt hollow, generic, like something that anyone could have written.
So you rewrite the prompt, try again, get something slightly better, good enough to use, maybe, but not quite right. So you patch it, fill in the gaps yourself, and suddenly the thing that you were supposed to save you time just created more work.
And that's the moment when a lot of smart operators reach the wrong conclusion.
Maybe AI isn't as useful as everyone says it is?
I've heard that thought from a lot of operators, smart ones, business owners who are doing real work, building real companies, and trying to figure out where AI actually fits. But that's not the real problem. The real problem isn't the AI. The real problem actually starts before you ever even type a single word. I'm Kim.
And I'm Hal.
And this is Small Business, Big AI, the podcast for operators who believe the future of business isn't about working harder, it's about building smarter systems.
This week, we're kicking off something we've been building toward, the IMPACT series. 5 episodes, one framework, a complete picture of how smart businesses actually deploy intelligence.
And we're starting at the beginning, not with tools, not with automation, with the thinking mistake that breaks AI before the work even begins. The thing that breaks before you even open your laptop.
Prompts.
Specifically, why most of them fail and why the fix has almost nothing to do with how you write them. Okay, Hal. So let me paint you a picture of what's happening right now in basically every online business community.
Go ahead.
Well, someone posts, here are the 47 best ChatGPT prompts for small business owners.
Gets about 1,000 likes.
At minimum. And the comments are full of people saving it, screenshotting it, sharing it with their teams. Because there's this belief running through the business world right now that's almost invisible because it feels so obvious
Which is?
that AI power comes from prompts, that if you write the right words in the right order, the AI performs. And if the output is bad, then you wrote the wrong words.
So the whole thing becomes a writing problem?
A very specific kind of writing problem. People are taking courses on it. They're buying prompt packs. There are entire businesses now built around selling you better prompts.
And I'm guessing you think that that's not quite right.
I think it's solving the wrong problem entirely.
Walk me through that.
Okay, well, here's what actually happens when you run a bad prompt. You type something vague. You get something vague back. So you try a different phrasing. Maybe you add some adjectives, like make it more conversational, make it sound less robotic. Write it for a small business owner audience.
And the output gets only marginally better.
Right, marginally. Because the fundamental issue, the actual reason the outputs feel hollow, that never actually gets fixed because the problem isn't the prompt.
What is it then?
The problem is what you never said before you typed the prompt.
Meaning the thinking behind it?
Exactly. Most operators are trying to improve the sentence, but the real advantage is in the thinking behind it.
So the prompt isn't the starting point.
Exactly. It's really the last step. And that's what this episode is all about.
So when you say the thinking behind the prompt, what does that actually mean in practice? Because I think most operators feel like they are thinking, they know what they want, they just can't always get AI to give it to them.
Right. And that's the gap because there's a difference between knowing what you want and knowing what you're trying to decide.
Say more.
Okay, well, think about how you'd brief a new team member, a smart one, someone you just hired. You wouldn't just walk up to their desk and say, "Write me an email." You tell them who the email is going to, what you're trying to accomplish, what the relationship has been up to now, what you don't want to say, and what success looks like.
Right. Context.
It's not just context, it's intent. It's the decision the email is meant to support. And when you skip all of that, when you just hand someone a task without the thinking behind it, then what do you get?
Something technically complete but misaligned.
Exactly. Every single time. And that's what's happening when operators sit down with AI and type a vague prompt. They're handing off the task without the brief. They're delegating the output, but not the direction.
And AI fills in the gaps.
AI fills in every gap with its best guess, which is usually average. Because AI trained on everything produces something that sounds like everything, generic by design, unless you give it a reason not to be. And here's the part most operators never realize.
What's that?
The two steps that actually fix this aren't about prompting at all. They're the first two steps of the impact loop: identify and mode. And most businesses skip both of them completely. So let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus runs a financial planning firm in Charlotte. 6 people, about 1.5 million in revenue. So he's been in business for 11 years. Methodical, precise, the kind of operator who color codes his calendar and actually reads the reports his team sends him.
I like Marcus already.
I'm sure you do. So he started using ChatGPT about 8 months ago. And for the first few months, he was pretty enthusiastic about it, like most of us are the first time we try it. Drafting client updates, pulling research, writing LinkedIn posts.
Sounds like a normal AI adoption story to me.
Well, it is until month 4. And he's got a client newsletter that he sends out every quarter. Market updates, what to watch for. His perspective on what matters now. And it's one of his signature touch points. And clients actually reply to it, which almost never happens with newsletters.
So you know what that is. It's working.
It's right, it's working because it sounds like Marcus, his perspective, his patterns, the way he frames things. So he decides, I'm going to use AI to speed this up, save maybe 3 or 4 hours of writing time.
Sounds reasonable.
So, yeah, he opens ChatGPT and he types, "Write a quarterly client newsletter for a financial planning firm about why clients should stay invested during market volatility."
And
And it produces something technically fine, all the right points, market cycles, historical returns, staying the course, the kind of content that you've read 1,000 times.
because everyone has written that version,
Exactly. Because, like you said, everyone has written that version. It was a newsletter that could have come from any financial advisor in America. No perspective, no Marcus, just competent filler.
and he sends it anyway?
Well, he patches it, rewrites most of it by hand. It takes him longer than if he'd just written it from scratch. In the next quarter, he doesn't even try AI. He goes back to writing it himself, and somewhere in his head, the verdict is now set.
AI doesn't really work for the things that matter?
Right, for the real work. And that verdict spreads. He mentions it to a client who's also a business owner, to a colleague at a conference, quietly in passing. I tried it. Wasn't that useful?
And the thing is, he's not wrong about what happened.
Right. Marcus isn't wrong about what. He's wrong about why. Because the AI didn't fail. The brief was missing.
So, what was the actual problem? Because from the outside, it sounds like he gave it a pretty clear prompt.
Well, he gave it a topic. He didn't give it a decision.
What's the difference?
Well, a topic is write about market volatility. A decision is my clients who've been with me for 7+ years are feeling anxious right now. Not because of the market numbers, they trust those, but because they're watching their friends panic sell and they want permission to hold. What I need is something that doesn't just explain the market, it validates the emotional experience of staying in while everyone around you is bailing out.
That's a completely different brief.
Completely different. And the AI output would also be completely different because now AI isn't guessing at what markets wants. It knows the decision he's supporting. It knows the emotional state of the reader. It knows what success actually looks like for this specific newsletter with this specific audience.
So it has intent.
Exactly. That's the first step of the impact loop. Identify.
Step one of a 6-step system we introduced last week, right?
Right. And identify isn't about describing the task, it's about naming the decision underneath the task. What are you trying to help someone understand, decide, or feel? What does it look like when that works?
So for Marcus, it would have been, I'm trying to give my long-term clients permission to hold. Success looks like reply that says, thanks, I need that.
Exactly. And that's a brief how. That's something you can hand to intelligence, human or AI, and actually get something real back.
And most operators are just handing over the task without the brief.
Right, because that's how we've always worked with tools. You don't brief a hammer. You don't tell Google what decision you're trying to make. So we've basically been trained to give instructions, but not intent.
But AI really isn't a tool in that sense.
Right, it's really not. And that is the shift. AI is intelligence waiting for direction. So when you hand it a task without intent, it does its best, which is usually average. But when you hand it intent, a real objective with a real outcome, then suddenly the intelligence has something to aim at.
In my world, we like to call that starting with the end in mind.
Exactly. I've heard you say that many times. Identify the decision, define the outcome, give it intent, direction, a purpose.
Now the intelligence knows what success looks like.
But here's the interesting part, Hal. Intent alone still isn't enough
What do you mean?
because once intelligence knows the decision, there's still another question. And that's how should that intelligence actually think about the problem?
Meaning what perspective it should bring.
Exactly. And that's the second step of the impact loop mode. But once you understand what mode really does, you start realizing something surprising. Most AI systems aren't failing because the prompts are weak. They're failing because the intelligence was never designed. And that's where this story with Marcus gets interesting. So, Marcus eventually figured this out, not from a prompt tutorial, but from a conversation at a conference. So, he's talking to a business owner who runs a similar sized firm in Denver. And she mentions, almost offhanded, that she spends about 10 minutes before every AI session writing what she calls a direction note.
A direction note?
Yeah, not for the AI, but for herself. It's, what decision am I supporting? Who's going to read this? What do I want them to feel? What do I specifically not want to say? And she writes it out, 2 or 3 paragraphs. And then she pastes it into the AI before the prompt.
So the AI gets the thinking, not just the task.
Exactly. And she calls it briefing the intelligence. And so Marcus, he goes home from that conference and he tries it that night. He types out everything he knows about his anxious clients, the emotional state, the specific concern, the relationship he's been building for 7 years. It's about 2 paragraphs. And then he asks for the newsletter.
And
He reads the first paragraph and stops because it sounds like him.
hmm,
Not because AI somehow learned to write like Marcus, because AI had enough direction to write toward something specific, toward a specific reader, a specific emotional moment, a specific decision, and specific beats that average how every single time.
okay. So if identify gives AI the what and the why, the intent behind the output, then what's mode?
Well, mode is about the how. Specifically, how should intelligence be thinking while it works on this problem?
Like the role?
Right, the role, perspective, operating posture. So let me show you the simplest way to understand why this matters. I'm going to give you same task, but 2 different modes. So mode 1 is act as a content writer and write a newsletter about market volatility. Now, mode 2 is act as a trusted financial advisor who has known this client for 7 years. Your job is not to inform them. Your job is to reassure them without being condescending. You understand markets, but more importantly, you understand that right now your client needs to feel seen, not educated.
Those are going to produce completely different outputs.
Like night and day, because mode tells intelligence what kind of judgment to bring to the problem. Is it analytical? Is it empathetic? Is it editorial? Someone who knows how to cut and sharpen. Or is it strategic? Someone looking 3 moves ahead.
So without mode, AI is just going to default to whatever it thinks is normal.
Exactly. Generalist, jack of all trades, and master of none. It brings a little bit of everything to the problem, and you end up with something that's perfectly adequate.
And completely forgettable,
You got it.
which is the hollow feeling most operators describe.
Exactly. That hollow feeling isn't bad AI. It's AI operating without a role, without a perspective, without a defined posture for how it should approach the problem.
So mode is almost like giving AI a character to play.
I'd say it's given intelligence an operating lens because a character is about style, mode is about judgment. How should intelligence weigh trade offs? What should it prioritize when two things are in tension? A strategist and an editor both produce words, but they're making completely different decisions about what matters.
And Marcus, when he figured out identify, did he figure out mode too?
Eventually. So he started calling it his advisor persona. So before any AI session that involves client communication, he adds one sentence. You are operating as an experienced, independent financial advisor with a strong relationship with this specific client. Your goal is not to sound authoritative. Your goal is to sound trustworthy.
And trustworthy is different from authoritative.
Completely. Authoritative sounds like a textbook. Trustworthy sounds like a conversation. And that one distinction, built into mode, changes every piece of output Marcus creates for his clients.
And now he's using AI again.
Right, more than ever, because the outputs actually sound like him. They're anchored in his perspective, shaped by his relationship with his clients. The newsletter that used to take 3 or 4 hours, he writes the direction note in 10 minutes, generates a draft, does one round of edits, and I'm saying total time about 45 minutes now.
From 3 or 4 hours to 45 minutes.
And the clients still reply because it sounds like Marcus. But here's where this gets even more interesting, Hal.
What do you mean?
Well, once you start thinking this way, identify the decision, define the mode, you start realizing something. Most businesses aren't struggling with AI tools. They're struggling because the intelligence inside their businesses has never actually been designed.
Meaning they're still treating AI like a tool instead of a role?
Exactly. And once you see that, you start noticing something else. There's actually a repeatable sequence behind the companies that get this right, a way of designing intelligence into how the business runs.
Which is the impact loop.
Exactly. And once you understand the next layer of the loop, the part where you start defining the rules intelligence operates under, then something interesting happens. AI stops feeling random and it starts behaving like a real system. So here's the shift I want every operator to walk away with today. Designing intelligence, prompting, communicating with AI is not a writing skill. It's a leadership skill.
Say that again.
Well, prompting is a leadership skill because what you're actually doing when you communicate with AI is what every leader does when they delegate work. You're defining intent. You're establishing context. You're setting the operating posture. And then you're issuing the task, the prompt, the words. That's the last step, not the first.
And most operators are starting with the last step.
Well, they're skipping the leadership and jumping straight to the delegation. And when you do that with a human employee, you get misaligned work. When you do it with AI, you get hollow output. The internet has it backwards. Everyone is optimizing the typing, but the advantage is in how intelligence is designed, and the thinking has a structure. It's identify and mode. Know the decision, define the perspective, then and only then write the prompt.
Prompt intelligence.
Not just prompt intelligence, more specifically, design intelligence. Not a better sentence, a better brief, and a system that knows how to brief its intelligence every time, consistently, with intention. That's not just better prompting. And that's the beginning of a technology enabled superpower. So before we close, I want to give you something concrete. Not a new tool, not a prompt library, but two questions.
2 questions?
Yes, before your next AI session, before you type a single word into the prompt box, write down the answers to two things. First, what decision am I trying to support with this output? Start with the end in mind. Not what am I asking AI to produce, but what decision does this output inform or enable? And then, second, what perspective should intelligence bring to this? Should it be a strategist, an editor, advisor, an analyst? What should AI be while it's working on this?
That's identify and mode.
That's identify and mode. You're not building a new system today. You're practicing two thinking habits that over time will change every AI interaction that you have.
And if you've never done this before, it feels a little strange at first.
It will, Hal. Because we are trained to jump to the task.
But slow down.
Right. Slow down. Two questions, two paragraphs, then the prompt.
And the outputs will be different.
Different enough that you'll notice it the first time. I promise.
So let's bring it together. We've been talking about what most operators get wrong about AI. And the answer isn't the tools. It isn't a subscription tier. It isn't even the amount of time they spend with it.
It's the thinking that happens before the prompt. Identify, knowing the decision you're supporting, and mode, knowing how intelligence should approach the problem. Those two steps are the difference between AI that produces hollow outputs and AI that produces work you'd actually put your name on.
And marketers figured that out without a new tool, without anything except a direction note and an advisor persona.
11 years of earned authority with his clients. The AI just needed to know what it was working with.
Next week on Small Business Big AI, we're going deeper into mode and into the next layer of the impact loop.
Because once you start designing intelligence inside a business, something interesting happens. The outputs start improving, but they're still inconsistent.
Which is the moment most operators realize something.
The intelligence understands the decision, it understands the perspective, but it still doesn't know the rules.
Rules?
Yes, rules. The standards, the boundaries, the constraints that tell intelligence what good actually looks like inside your company, across your entire business. And once those rules exist, AI stops behaving like a clever assistant.
And starts behaving like a real system.
And that's next week, episode 85. We're going deeper into mode and into parameters.
Until then, keep building your technology-enabled superpower.
And this has been Small Business Big AI. We'll catch you in the next episode.